one thing to have dominion over the earth. That's a pretty regal, pretty powerful image. But it's important to translate or understand that dominion through a more humble lens. Jesus as Lord, the Dominus, is the model of dominion. So what does it mean to exercise dominion? It means to not count yourself greater than others, but to sacrifice yourself for the welfare of others. That, it seems to me, is at the heart of what, if we're going to talk about an ethic of stewardship rooted in the first couple chapters of Genesis, we need to be sure that's what we're talking about. Iowa Interfaith Power and Light, to my knowledge, is the only interfaith organization in the state of Iowa calling attention to the issues related to climate change. Our mission is to help people of faith in all sorts of religious traditions reach out and to speak out about climate change. We have a series of programs that help members of congregations or houses of worship reduce their carbon footprint. We have another program on food, faith, and climate. So education, advocacy, public awareness about climate change, that's very much at the center of the organization's mission.
What I do as program coordinator for Iowa IPL is hold a training workshop for green teams, and they come to me and learn how to run the program, and then they take the program back to their own congregation and enroll their members in it. And over the course of the year, they'll meet with their members in small groups and teach them how to measure their carbon footprint, and then help them find ways to reduce, and help them to make a pledge, a faith-based pledge to their own congregation to reduce their energy use. And then at the end of the year, they gather them together, look at their results, measure their footprint again, and look at their results, and celebrate the successes by having an award ceremony and handing out prizes like Biggest Loser and Least Flighty, things like that. The church is a perfect place to carry out this work because, first of all the major faith traditions call for their members to care for their neighbor and for the earth. And this program does just that. It helps every member to care for their neighbor and to care for the earth, because climate change is going to affect the poor the worst. It already is affecting the poor the worst. And those are the people that we are called to help. And in terms of carrying out the program itself, the structures are already set up. Churches work by small groups. This is how we get together and do things. From the knitting group, to the choir, to the Bible study, to the men's group, to the parents group. That's how we work. You're going to see your members of your congregation over the course of a year anyway, and you can say, hey, how's it going? Do you like that new Prius you got? Or, did your ground source heat pump work out okay for you? And it just is affirming for people who have done things, and it's a reminder for those who haven't yet taken that step that they intend to take. Well, I first attended a Cool Congregations training at one of the other churches in town. So that gave me a lot of ideas. We did an activity that allowed people to audit or assess their carbon footprint in their homes and family lives. We created a Cool Congregation team within Bethlehem, and it was connected very much with the facility, the Congregational Home Committee that does a lot of the facility management and decision making, connected with staff who do the education with the young people, and so it really became just embraced by a lot of people. And so if they get an idea, if somebody provides an idea, generally it's going to be received well. And one other activity we do is we increase the recycling here. We got some recycling bins, and then there's a recycling team, and they each have their schedule, and every 2 weeks, somebody comes in and picks up everything that's been collected and takes it to the city recycling station. So again, it involved all people thinking of recycling things and putting them in the bins, so the committee could get them where they needed to go.
When the church was built in 1979. It was one of the first facilities around that had air source heat pumps. So we were built during a time when there was a gas moratorium, and Cedar Falls was not allowing any additional gas hookups. So we were driven to a non-conventional solution, you might say, because everybody would have gas heat if that were allowed. But being an all-electric facility certainly allowed us an easy transition when the older equipment was ready to be replaced, to transition to ground source heat pumps. They supply heated or cooled air for our fellowship hall and the kitchen area. These two work together. One of the things that was very good about our situation here where we are in Cedar Falls is the ground loops go out away from the church in the ample amount of space that we have, and we get very good thermal conductivity to the ground loops. So we're very nicely set up here for ground source heat pumps, and we take advantage of that.
When Sarah Webb came along with the idea of cool congregations and improving our physical plant, it dovetailed nicely with already what we had in mind with working with the power company in town. They were very encouraging of us to tighten up and reduce our bills and insulate and so on. They had a program for that. So the two dovetailed very nicely. We have done a variety of things. We're not nearly as far as some of us would like, but we've come quite a ways. We do small things like we have a recycling program where virtually everything that's recyclable here, whether it's from the kitchen or from the office, from big events and so on, gets recycled. We recycle light bulbs for people, the small fluorescent light bulbs and so on. And also big ones that people bring in, because people don't like to go out to the landfill and do that. So we collect a whole bunch and then take them out. We had to do about $1.5 million renovation of our sanctuary. It was crumbling underneath. It did not have a basement, just had a crawl space, and the foundation was crumbling. And we got together as a congregation and got almost unanimous agreement that we would go the LEED certification route. And so we were very careful to hire an architect and a construction company that would help us meet that requirement. And so we spent extra money, probably, and certainly time to make sure that the process of building, the materials used, and the product were up to LEED specifications, which are pretty high. We also have a lot of windows, for example, in this area that need to be replaced sometime. It turns out that we're not losing a huge amount of energy through those windows, happily, but they are not particularly well insulated, and they're not particularly well built, and so we're going to have real problems with them. So the question is, what level of insulation and R value are we going to build into those windows? The more R values, the more expensive they are. So we have those ongoing issues.
Well, of course, moving forward this year, one of the things that we'll be doing is reaching out across the state of Iowa to build support for these EPA greenhouse gas regulations beyond faith leaders, but to all members of various religious traditions, but also to the public in general. The state of Iowa is more diverse than most people realize, just as our nation is more diverse than a lot of people realize. And the reality is climate change affects the whole planet and is going to affect all of our lives. And every religious tradition, in one way or another, addresses issues related to stewardship of the earth, creation care, etc. And so we have discovered that climate change, precisely because it does affect everyone, that it cuts across religious boundaries that often are used to divide us and keep us divided, but in fact we're discovering can be bridged through this common concern about climate change.
It's pretty clear, if you read Genesis especially, that the world is considered to be God's creation, and we're here not to use it up, but to have dominion. not dominating, okay, that's how a lot of people translate it. Someone who has dominion over an area, they're using metaphors from kings and queens and so on. So dominion is a responsibility, a special responsibility.